Will the Committee of Supply please come to order? This section of the Committee of Supply will now resume consideration of the estimates for the Department of Business, Mining, Trade, and Job Creation. Questioning for this department will proceed in a global manner. The floor is now open for questions. Honorable Member for Springfield, Richard.
Well, it's great to be here on a beautiful afternoon on a Thursday with the minister, who I have known for many years, way back to our days in River East School Division. And I know everybody on committee is thinking, oh, I bet you they went to high school together. But no, it wasn't that. I was a school trustee and he was a student. And I believe the minister was also very active on sports teams at River East Collegiate. And maybe he wants to reflect a little bit. I don't actually remember all the sports he was involved with, and very active at River East Collegiate. I don't know if one's allowed to say this here, but I think he was one of the stars. Not sure if he got Athlete of the Year award. Did he get? Yeah, maybe he should. It's good to sort of know where we all come from. I mean, it has been a few years since he graduated and since I was on the school board, and he actually went to River East Collegiate with my nieces. And he was a bright, dynamic young student. And was he Athlete of the Year for grade 12? I don't remember, but could the minister inform us on his sports career?
Thank you, member, for the question. It's always interesting and good to talk about sports, but I would respectfully advise the member to bring it back to estimates so that it's relevant. So you can add your comments to bring it back to the estimates. Once again, I appreciate sports talk. Member for Springfield, Richard.
How did all of those Athlete of the Year help him as minister of this department?
Thank you, member. I'll let you give it another try. Anything related to minister's salary is usually discussed at the end of our estimates. So I would request the member to please bring it back and make it relevant to the estimates. Member for Springfield, Richard.
Okay, I seem to be confused here. I don't think I ever asked about the minister's salary. But I would like to also ask the minister who his chief of staff is, on top of his other sports activities.
Honorable Minister for Business, Mining, Trade, and Job Creation.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, and I appreciate your guidance through this situation and the line of questioning, which I appreciate from member opposite. Very happy to indulge about my athletic history and perhaps you might even say prowess. Yeah, I attended River East Collegiate and won, I believe it was four Athletes of the Year awards in the 3 years that I went there. Yes, that is actually true. They gave out 2 different awards. One year I won both of them. I also won the Provincial Athlete of the Year in my grade 12 year, as well as 3 provincial basketball titles while at River East. So very happy about all that time. But spent some time coaching basketball afterwards, high school, and that was a lot of fun. But now to the business at hand. My chief of staff, or as we call them, director of ministerial affairs, is a very important role, and I'm very happy to have a good person doing excellent work in that position who has a lot of experience and has the attitude, the in-depth knowledge, the I would say, commitment, stamina, and I would say dedication to do the job in an excellent fashion. And happy that his name is recorded in the Ordinance Council, available for all public to see. And so anyone wants to know the staff people, political staff, their names are listed in the Ordinance Council. And so folks, all Manitobans can go ahead and look at the staff information there. But happy to continue to answer any question from members opposite.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable Member for Springfield Richard.
Well, that just shows what a athlete we have as minister, and I think he also went to school about the same time as Chad Posthumus. I don't know if he graduated with Chad, and as many of us know, unfortunately, Chad had a incident and passed away. I know the family well. In fact, his younger sister played sports with one of my kids, and his son with my younger children, and his sister and brother, pardon me, and know the Posthumus family. In fact, the mom, Diana Posthumus, was a principal of River East Collegiate at one point in time. So, it's all in the family, but River East Collegiate has certainly produced some amazing athletes, amazing business people, and individuals in the arts section. Jeff Kula was an amazing band teacher and music teacher. His what he did with that school and giving it prominence was just unbelievable, and the success of even my family members was just amazing. So, but all of these things do really bring us to a point of where we are today, right? Like we go to school and we get to learn under some really dynamic individuals, and then we move on. And so today we have a graduate of River East Collegiate and sports athlete, and I don't know if I'm allowed to ask. I don't even know what the minister studied at university, and from what I understand, he was even a recognized athlete at, I don't know if it was University of Manitoba or University of Winnipeg. And it just speaks to how great this province is, that we can have individuals grow and flourish through, and I'm particularly biased about River East Transcona School Division, and move on, and today he's a minister, and that's just really cool, and it just shows the greatness of this province and the greatness of the school system. And I thank the minister for pointing out that we don't go with the chief of staff. I know under the previous Conservative government we had special assistant and executive assistant, and that was kind of like chief of staff and assistant chief of staff. Manitoba just doesn't seem to want to use those terms. It's used everywhere else in the country, but we don't, and that's fine. And so to the minister, who else does he have in his political staff in his office? And if he wants to reflect a little bit on his post-secondary education, would be interesting to hear, but I understand this is about the department, so I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Member for Springfield Richard. Honorable Minister for Business, Mining, Trade, and Job Creation.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. It's a very interesting time we're spending this afternoon in estimates. I do think that athletics and sports and time in your youth certainly shapes your future, and I think it's important for young people to be able to live up to their full potential by having opportunities to engage in activities that they feel relevant or important in their lives. For me, it was being involved in many things growing up, like athletics and like in music and other things, and find interests and passions that help drive you forward. And so, very clearly, my message to young people in Manitobans is take as many opportunities as you can to find a fulfilling and worthwhile activities during your youth. When you have the ability to do so, it's can be bring forth lasting memories, strong friendship, and honestly teach you much about yourself that you might find useful as you grow older in a variety of perspectives. Played football at the University of Manitoba, proud Bison, and it's a very exciting time to be there, and glad to have had that opportunity, and also played football with the Winnipeg Rifles. So I have 3 political staff, Director of Ministerial Affairs, as was mentioned, as well as an Executive Assistant and an Issues Manager, all of which have OICs. But I do want to just get to one other item here that was actually brought up the previous day in estimates for this department, brought up by the member for Tyndall Park around royalty rates. And so I just want to put it on the record for members about some of the royalty rates, and I'll just read out some of the royalty rates here. And these are for quarries, stone and rock. So for quarry minerals, there's a variety of rates, and I'll just put them on the record here. These are per kilogram. So for amber, it's $5.58. Bentonite, it's 67 cents. Kaolin, it's 67 cents. For other clays, it's 36 cents. Gypsum, the rate is 50 cents. Limestone, greater than 90% calcium carbonate, is 36 cents. Silica sand, greater than 95% silica content, is 50 cents. Heavy mineral sand containing minerals such as ilmenite, rutile, zircon, garnet, monazite, magnetite, kaolite, tourmaline, spine, and apatite, biotite. Those are 39 cents, and forgive me if to all the geologists out there, my pronunciation wasn't 100% perfect there. Coal is 56 cents. These are all, again, per kilogram. Shale is 56 cents. Salt is 56 cents. Shale is 36 cents. Peat is 6 cents per cubic meter. Gravel is 50 cents. And mining backfill is 21 cents. Those are all quarry minerals. Now for rock and stone, there's common stone. There's 2 specific types, common stone and processed stone. So for common stone, it's 15 cents. Processed stone, for processed stone that's screened, crushed or pulverized, that stone, that's 36 cents. Dimension stone, which is shaped or cut, is $1.07. So all these rates were as of last updated in 2013. And the last section there that the member from Tyndall Park might want to know, as she asked the question in the previous session of estimates, might be also around the rehabilitation levy for quarries, and that at the industry's request and lobbying was actually increased from 12 cents per ton to 24 cents per ton in 2025.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable Member for Springfield Richard.
Well, I'm sure the member for the Liberal Independent member will certainly appreciate those numbers. While we're on that topic, what is the royalty rate for oil?
Thank you, Member. Honorable Minister for Business, Mining, Trade and Job Creation.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. You know, when I woke up this morning and if I put on my list of things on my bingo card, whether I'd be talking about the provincial championships I won at River East Collegiate, I would not have suspected that this would be the line of discussion during estimates today. But you know what? Life surprises you sometimes, and so take every bit of joy out of life as I can, and so having an opportunity to answer the members' questions regarding former athletic triumphs, I think is you know, often doesn't happen often, and so I take joy from every bit of it as I can. But I also want to say that to all the athletes who are out there right now, who are doing an amazing, incredible job, and in many respects surpassing heights that I even would never have imagined, I commend them, and think that we all should salute their remarkable achievements that they make, and find more ways for young people to, and people of all ages, to reach their full potential. I know seniors in my community who are achieving incredible highs at pickleball, you know, and I'm sure would be able to, who would be able to mop the floor with me in pickleball, I'm sure. So I commend all people who take advantage of those particular opportunities. And as the member opposite did mention in his previous question around Chad Posthumous, I did want to just send my obviously sincere condolences to his family. I've had the pleasure of not only getting to know Chad over the time, even though I did not go to school with him at River East, we were different years, got to getting to know him and getting to know what a wonderful person he is, what an advocate and champion he is on and off the basketball court. Particularly his work with diabetes, I think, was incredibly remarkable, and he was such a passionate advocate for him. I even had a chance to pick up basketball with him, and I can truly say that he lives up to the name of being the beast from River East. And so I certainly want to send deep condolences to him, especially as the new Sea Bears team will be kicking off their season opener tomorrow, and they'll be certainly missing their dear captain, Chad Posthumous. So as to the member opposite's question for royalty rates, royalty rates are based on the class of oil here in Manitoba, and there are a variety of different classes of oil. There are actually 4 different classes of oil: new oil, old oil, third-tier oil, and holiday oil. And the ranges of those 4 classes, the rates for those 4 classes of oil range from 2.5% to 10%.
Thank you, Minister. I appreciate the sports talk again, but I think we should be focusing on the estimates. I again appreciate your not just sports enthusiasm for sports, but also for performing arts that has been briefly mentioned. I would like that more, but let's focus on the estimates. So that's an advice from the chair. Order, please.
No, you're not.
Order, please. It's part of the responsibility of the chair and the staff to call on relevance. So that's what I just did. I would advise the members, while they're allowed to talk about certain things surrounding the subject, fine, but we need to bring it back to the estimates. That's what we are discussing right now. Honorable Member for Springfield Richard.
We talked about. It's great celebrating your achievements. Thank you for the rate on oil. my question to the minister is there any other fees that are placed on oil pumped here in Manitoba, or is it just the percentage range that the minister raised? Like he mentioned, it's about 2.5 to 10%, depending, I take it, on the quality of the oil. Is there any other fee that is imposed?
Thank you, member. Honorable Minister for Business, Mining, Trade, and Job Creation.
Thank the member opposite for the question. You know, our oil and gas industry is one that plays a significant role in Manitoba, not only in our economy, but also in a very specific area geographically in our province. And so you can think of the southwest Manitoba area, you know, Verdun particularly, as being the oil and gas hub of Manitoba and our province there. I know the operations is very significant operations of Tundra, Corex being the two major players there in Manitoba, and had ongoing dialogue with them about our industry, and I think it's very important for us to acknowledge all the people who work in that sector and ensure that our economy can continue to function and move on in terms of having the oil and gas products just that we need on a daily basis. And I think it's very important for us to just acknowledge the hard work that Manitobans play in that industry and the jobs that are created out of the sector. Now, when it comes to very specific question the member asked on any other fees for oil, I just want to say the way that oil and the other fees are. First, when you think about just really the only fees that would be on top of the oil and gas tax, which is we have the tax here in Manitoba, are the fees around getting a permit application for drilling, for the permitting oil, and for the exploration as well. So it's really the fees associated with drilling, permitting, and exploration. Those are the other fees on oil, as well as the royalty and the oil and gas tax.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable Member for Springfield Richard.
Yeah, thank the minister for that information. Also, the government announced they were going to open up a trade office in Washington. Could the minister tell us, how is that going?
Thank you, Member. Honorable Minister for Business, Mining, Trade, and Job Creation.
I thank the member for the question on the U.S. Washington trade office that we've announced that we're going to be opening. You know, I think it's very important to signal how important that is, right? This is our largest trading partner, the United States of America. We export billions of dollars, and over 70% of what we export goes to the United States of America. So having a strong trade relationship is essential to our ability to export goods. That's something that drives our economy. And it's really, in my opinion, very short-sighted for the former failed government to close down the representation there in Washington. And we're very happy to not only be doing it, but doing it alongside calls from the business community who have been advocating, saying that they need to have Manitoba represented on the international stage, and particularly with the largest trading partner for Manitoba businesses. So it's very important for us to have that. We've taken strong steps to have that open. We're going to be having some news to share about that soon. But I also want to say that in the meantime, we've taken some very significant steps when it comes to our relationship and navigating relationship with business and with the United States as we navigate the landscape of tariffs coming from the White House. And so we know that we've already begun and had several meetings with our U.S. Trade Council. That's the group of business leaders and sector leaders who are coming together so that we can share the up-to-date and live information with them, and also they can provide their feedback with us to ensure that their business needs and their business impacts of the Donald Trump tariffs, as well as the tariffs from China, that we have an awareness of how they're very specifically impacting our business community, and that we can have the ability to work with them to navigate them. Our department has done a significant amount of work to understand those concerns, listen to them, and react and respond. In many ways, a very proactive response to those tariffs. We know that steel, for example, has been a very impacted industry, and we've been very active on that file, as well as manufacturing and secondary manufacturing has been very impacted. We also know in agriculture, canola producers have been very much impacted by the tariffs from China. And so myself, and working in collaboration with the Ministry of Agriculture, are working very hard to address and make sure we have the resources to move our economy forward. We're also opened up a trade hotline to make sure that Manitobans can email or call us and make sure that they can get the updated information and share with us what they're seeing and hearing when it comes to trade with the United States. And so that tariff hotline, which we opened up in February, I believe, has already received over 300 emails and over 100 calls. It's a lot of significant work, a lot of Manitoban businesses that we're able to work directly with to help them navigate the changing landscape that is the Donald Trump tariffs. And so that's just a snippet of some of the work that we've done. It doesn't include working on Buy Canadian Act and new procurement policies and rules, or direct visits and conversations and meetings with trading partners in the United States of America that all go towards making sure that the Manitobans know they have a government that is not only responsive to the ever-changing landscape of U.S. White House Donald Trump tariffs, but also that they have a government that they can trust in and know is going to put their needs as economic force as the center of our trading relationship and our policy when it comes to growing our economy.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable Member for Springfield Richard.
So with the trade office in Washington, D.C., can the minister tell us what is the budgeted amount for this fiscal year, and where do we find it in the budget?
Thank you, Member. Honorable Minister for Business, Mining, Trade, and Job Creation.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. So, as I mentioned in my previous response, we're going to have some news to share about the Washington trade office soon. So I think that's where the member opposite Manitoban should make sure they stay tuned for that announcement coming soon. But I want to say that, we have so much work that we've done to respond to U.S. tariffs that I want to share more of what we've done with the member, just so that he's fully aware of some of the great work that's happening here. In addition to some of that direct advocacy work, which includes, trip down to meet with U.S. Governor in North Dakota, and have a direct individual meeting with him and myself and the Premier. It was very interesting to hear, Governor Armstrong's opinion and understanding the strong trading relationship between North Dakota and Manitoba. So we value having and continue to have strong positive relationships, because we know that people on both sides of the borders can benefit when we have the ability to trade with each other and move our economies forward. That direct advocacy work is significant. We've also, as a member opposite and Manitobans would know, we pulled U.S. alcohol products, U.S. booze off the shelves, as a strong signal that we want to not only have an impact on some of the U.S. suppliers of alcohol, but also that we think Canadian booze is pretty good, and that we can encourage Canadians and Manitobans to find avenues to shop locally here, and maybe pick up a 1919 instead of one of the U.S. brands, if they so choose to. And with that Buy Local campaign in particular, that's a very significant piece of effort. And I've heard from local business communities business leaders where they've seen an uptick in business because of our Buy Local and Buy Manitoba and Support Local and Support Manitoba campaigns. This is something that we launched early on in the trade discussion. And it's really about Manitobans finding the ability to support our own economy here in Manitoba. The website that we launched in February 5th has been promoting local businesses, and the platform has done very well, over 32,000 views, and has been something where Manitobans have been able to say, hey, this is a great way for me to do my part to navigate the conflict with the U.S. over tariffs and do my part. And I think that's something that goes not only to have an economic benefit for us as Manitobans and our economy, but also for Manitobans feeling really united and knowing that we all can do something when it comes to growing our economy here, and buying local and supporting Manitoba businesses is one of those very things. So we're very happy and excited with the success of that program. I think our investments to grow trade around the world and diversify is also something very important, and that goes to the question around the importance of having a trade office in Washington. That trade is important. Trade with our largest partner is important, but trade with the rest of the world is really important too. And that's why we were super proud about investing $36.4 million over 2 years in the revitalization of the Port of Churchill. This is going to go to help strengthen our economy, diversify our economy, and at the same time support northern communities and Manitobans from every corner of the province. These are the sort of initiatives that are significant, that we've taken in response to the tariffs, but also that we've done to make sure that we're making sure our economy is more fortified, more robust for the future, and providing businesses and our industries here in Manitoba with the tools they need to succeed and ride the wave of the tariffs, but also come out even stronger on the other side.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable Member for Springfield Richard.
So the question really was about the trade office in Washington, D.C., and I'm not asking the address or who's going to staff it. I've gone through the budget, and I wouldn't know it as well as the Minister's Department, but I don't seem to be able to find that a trade office in Washington, D.C. is ever referenced. I'm on page 20. I don't see it mentioned there. Can the minister point to me in the supplement to the estimates of expenditure budget 25-26 for the department? Can the minister point to me to the page where a trade office in Washington, D.C. is even mentioned in this particular document?
Thank you, member. Honorable Minister of Business, Mining, Trade, and Job Creation.
Thank you so much, Chair. I love the questions about the Washington Trade Office. I think this initiative is fantastic. It gives us a chance to have an advocate for Manitoba, for our business industry in Washington, the capital, the policy-setting place with our largest trading partner. It's a fantastic idea that we should be very excited for as we get that online. And we, as I mentioned earlier to the minister, will have some important news to share about that soon. So I won't scoop myself or scoop our government by giving any more, but I will say that I'm so passionate about this, and I'm also very thankful for the question on this. And I also feel like it's very curious that the member asks questions about this because it's his former government that closed the office down, that closed the former office in Washington. Manitoba's former representative that we used to have there was closed because of the former government. And I'm thinking about now, how under all of what we've seen happen with the ups and downs to business and industry as it relates to the pandemic and the ups and downs that businesses have been facing as a result of Donald Trump's tariffs on Canada, and whether or not members opposite in the former government, how they feel about that decision to remove Manitoba's trade representative in Washington. Again, a trade representative with our largest trading partner. How they feel about that decision now, in hindsight. I wonder whether the member opposite would maybe feel like they should have taken a different course with that, or whether they would double down on that, I would say, objectively poor decision. And I mean, at the same time, we've seen other jurisdictions in Canada who have continued to have a presence in the United States, in Washington. We've seen other jurisdictions across Canada, in fact, open trade offices in other countries besides the United States and Canada, around the world, in an effort to grow their economic footprint, their trade opportunities, and further diversify their markets. Now, the former government felt that that not only was not the right approach, but closing down the office with our largest trading partner was the direction they took. And I think it did not serve us well as Manitobans and did not serve our business community well. So we're reversing course. We're actually listening to the business community by reopening this Washington office, and we're going to have some really good news to share on that soon. And so I welcome more questions about this Washington office from members opposite, and I think that it's a right move, a move that's supported by businesses here in Manitoba, and it's one I think is going to have real positive gains and make a lot of sense for our businesses here and for advocating on behalf of Manitobans.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable Member for Springfield Richard.
Well, I think it's time to nominate the minister for a 5th Athlete of the Year award, and that would be in political dodgeball, because he has yet to answer a question. In his estimates book, nowhere does it list a trade office in Washington, D.C. There's no money allocated. There's no line item. It's not even mentioned. No mention of it. No money. So the minister is going to make a big announcement, and there will be no money. So my question then is that office going to be under his department, or will it fall under a different department? Because currently, within this budget that is presented, there is no money budgeted. There's not even a mention of it. And the minister wants to talk about it. And he's very good. He's very good at dodgeball. You can tell he was a very good athlete because he's very good at dodging the question. If it's not even mentioned, there's no line item, will it fall under his department?
Thank you, Member. Honorable Minister for Business, Mining, Trade, and Job Creation.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. So I think the member, needs to be very clear with Manitobans. It is very clearly mentioned in our budget on page 58 of our budget document, the budget 2025, Building 1 Manitoba, our document, page 58. And I can read the text for the member opposite to be very clear. And so Manitobans can also be very clear that it says in the section titled Trade Office in Washington, D.C., section of it reads, and I quote, "Our government has made trade with the U.S., Manitoba's largest trading partner, a priority from day one. While the previous government cut the Washington, D.C. trade representative, Manitoba will stand up an office in Washington, D.C. this year with a focus on building relationship with lawmakers and businesses who understand the mutual benefits of a strong trading relationship with Manitoba and Canada. The position will be based in Washington, D.C., but will also work with Manitoba companies and industries to strengthen ties in states with a strong Manitoba presence like Illinois, Georgia, and Minnesota. Very clearly there, end quote. So very clearly there, it says in our documents describing the Washington Trade Office, we're gonna have really good news about that soon. But what I think member opposite, and I'm so excited again to talk about this, is that this is a great initiative, an initiative where we listened to the business community, saw and recognized very early on. Quite frankly, before the election happened in 2023, we were able to get former Premier and former Ambassador Dewar as our trade advisor, using his list of knowledge and experience to advise us to navigate the trade landscape with our large trade partner, I think has been an invaluable asset to our government. As well, you know, I think it's very obvious and clear to Manitobans the failed approach of the former government to close down our trade representative in Washington. And I think the member opposite should really reflect on whether or not that's something that he thinks was a good decision for Manitoba and for Manitoba businesses. When I talk to businesses, they say we should have had a presence in Washington. They say that we should continue to be advocating about the amazing strengths we have here in Manitoba. Businesses I talk to say that yes, we should let the rest of North America and the world know about the fantastic trade corridors we have here in Manitoba, where you can reach east, west, and south with our BNSF line, all the way up north to the port of Churchill, the only deep sea Arctic port in all of North America. More business communities here in Manitoba say that we ought to be telling Manitobans about the incredible opportunities we have here, telling Canadians and Americans about the opportunities that businesses could have with our low cost and affordable and clean electric hydro grid that can power industries affordably with clean energy. Businesses tell me that we should be telling Americans in Washington about the fact that we have some of the largest manufacturers, specialty manufacturing here, third largest aerospace sector, incredible opportunities in critical minerals, where we work in partnership with First Nations, with the highest environmental standards, and on top of that, we can get projects done with a streamlined regulatory and permitting approach. That's evidenced by the new gold mine we opened up in Lynn Lake, Manitoba. I was at the groundbreaking there not too long ago. These are incredible stories that we have to tell. And how do we do that? We do that by having a representative who can represent us and tell these stories. And where better else to tell that story but with our largest trading partner, with the United States. And having that person working for us on our behalves in Washington is going to be essential to growing our economy here in Manitoba well into the future.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable Member for Springfield Richard.
So today we are in estimates for Manitoba business, mining, trade, and job creation. And we are dealing with the supplement to the estimates of expenditure, which I referenced. And I asked the minister, where in this document does it list the trade office in Washington, D.C.? He said it's on page 58. Conveniently, there's only 52 pages in this estimates. So I'd like to point out,
Ron, ask your staff. It's the wrong document.
I think and this is, if the Minister of Justice would like to ask some questions, I'm prepared to cede the floor, and he can do so. But the document that we are dealing with right now are supplement to estimates of expenditure, and I went through it, which I know he's got in front of him. There's only 52 pages. So I like the fact that he mentions there's 58 pages and there's not. Again, will the trade office in Washington, the expenditures come out of his departmental budget?
Thank you, member. Honorable Minister of Business, Mining, Trade and Job Creation.
This is a great opportunity to talk about the terrific things that we're doing in growing our economy and how we want to tell the story around the world, particularly with our largest trading partner. You know, you think about anything that you want to get done, you've got to work with other people, right? We as a province have got to work with other provinces and territories. We've got to work with municipalities. We've got to work with the federal government. I know member opposite understands this concept, or at least I assume he does. And us as a province have also got to work with our trading partners around the world. And there's that saying that goes that's very important for us to keep in mind. You've got to relate before you negotiate. And us building strong relationships with the US is only going to help us navigate challenges that might come up in the future and also put a good foot forward for us. Make sure that sometimes those policymakers can have Manitoba on our mind, can have our incredible pork industry on their mind, largest pork producer in the country, have that on their mind. And understanding how many times, you know, before we buy that bacon on the shelves, how many times it crosses the US-Canada border, right? And if we can understand that, we can really make sure that we have an advocate telling that story and the impact that tariffs would have on that industry. And so we're happy to open up the trade office in Washington. I think I've explained that very well. I think I explained that in my last answer, that on page 58 of our actual budget is where we talk about our trade office. And I've made that very clear. So I think it's a little bit disingenuous for the member to talk about page 52 and page 58 of different documents. I think it's very clear it's on page 58 of our actual budget, Building One Manitoba, Budget 2025, where I was reading from and quoting that document. But it still doesn't explain why members opposite thought it was a good idea to close down the office in Washington. It still doesn't explain why that trade representative stopped representing Manitoba under the former government. And I think it's very important for us to dig into that, because that, you know, really is why we are now having to set up a new office here, which we're very happy to do, but it's a lot of work. And it really set Manitoba back. It set us back when it comes to growing our economy. It set us back when it comes to advocating for the potential of Manitoba and the great things that are happening here. It set us back in terms of building relationships with the United States, with those folks in Washington. And it's important that we reestablish that. And that's exactly what we're going to do today. And so if the member opposite in his next question wants to continue to ask about the U.S. trade office we're going to open up in Washington, it's going to be terrific, and we'll have some good news to share on that soon. I'm very happy to continue talking about it. But as he thinks about how he frames out his next question, perhaps he should also let Manitobans know what his thinking is about why they closed down and ended the trade representative there in Washington in the first place, and how he reflects on that decision years later. Whether he thinks it's a good decision he would stand by, or whether he would say that he regrets that decision and wish they had taken a different course.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable Member for Springfield Richard.
So we are in an estimates process where ministers and departments are asked about the finances and how they fund things and how they account for the finances. That's what estimates is about. So we're asking the minister where in his budget, departmental budget, is the financing, the funding for a trade office in Washington, D.C. If it's not in his department, we understand it's in a different department, and you needn't even have to say which other department. If it's in his department, where in his budget does the funding come out of to fund a trade office in Washington, D.C.?
Thank you, Member. Honorable Minister.
Well, I think the member opposite for that question, because again, it's another opportunity for me to talk about the great things that we're doing when it comes to growing trade here in Manitoba. But I do want to just start by saying I'm a little disappointed the member opposite didn't take the opportunity he just had to explain to Manitobans why they closed down the office, why they ended their trade relationship representative in Washington, why they didn't want to have a good relationship with our largest trading partner. Sometimes it a little boggles the mind in some respects. And, you know, thinking back on the, you know, it's almost hard to quantify all the missed opportunities that we could have had if we had a representative advocating for Manitobans, putting our good foot forward as we enter into conversation with our largest trading partner. And just to highlight a few things that was missed, without a trade representative in Washington, the negotiation of our current trade agreement, CUSMA. We had NAFTA, and now we have CUSMA. And while that was being negotiated, we had no trade representative in Washington, making sure that we had the voice of Manitoba at the table, negotiating that trade deal. That's such a missed opportunity, a complete missed opportunity, that we could have had the voice of Manitoba there advocating for our best interests as as Canada and the US negotiated that trade deal. And so, you know, we're gonna rectify that error by opening up the new trade office. So we're excited to share some news on that very soon. But the member opposite is wondering about specific funding that we're putting forward. So let me tell the member some very specific funding. Like I said, we've put $36.4 million over 2 years into revitalizing the Port of Churchill. That's a very specific amount of funding that's going to help strengthen the Port of Churchill, give us new infrastructure to expand our trade with other countries, with jurisdictions, particularly those in Europe. At the same time, growing our northern economy and giving new access to markets for Manitoba companies and also companies in Western Canada. Another very specific number to grow our economy is $1.5 million that we're investing in trade diversification and partnering with the Canadian manufacturers of exporters for a Made in Manitoba program. It's going to support companies impacted by tariffs. That's the sort of investment that not only helps to deal with the uncertainty of tariffs in this very moment, but also gives support to companies here in Manitoba, and at the same time sets them up for greater success in the future and help them grow their economy, grow our economy, and grow their businesses regardless of whether there's tariffs or not, and regardless of who's in the White House. This is how we're going to set ourselves up for greater success in the future. And if the member opposite wants another specific funder number, I'll give him another $1.5 million that we're doing in partnership with Mining Association of Manitoba. And that is specifically to go to market Manitoba's critical minerals around the world and internationally. Help us get more of that foreign direct investment. Help diversify some of our export markets. How to ensure that we have more critical mineral opportunities, more mining opportunities here in Manitoba. Opportunities that will help to grow our economy in rural and in northern areas. Opportunities that will go to benefit the lives of First Nations and the Métis. Opportunities that will go to put more Manitobans to work. And those same opportunities will ensure that we have and respect our environment. So we're very happy about all these things, and I can give the member opposite many more specific numbers. But I'll close by comments for this question by saying that the U.S. Washington Trade Office is going to be funded out of intergovernmental affairs and area. And it's important that we work together as different departments to make sure that we have a very cohesive and collaborative approach to growing our trade with our largest trading partner, the United States of America.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable Member for Springfield Richard.
Is the government of Manitoba looking at all in opening trade offices in China?
Thank you, Member. Honorable Minister.
Well, I thank the member opposite for the question. Honorable Chair, thanks for recognizing me. And as we continue on this discussion, it is, again, very interesting to see the line of questioning from member opposite. Again, this is a question coming from, and I just want to break down the history here for Manitobans who are watching. This question is coming from a member who was part of a government that closed down the Washington office, that made that decision to roll back our representative, our advocate from our largest trading partner. Right? They made that decision. Then we had no trade representative during the negotiation of our largest trading agreement with our largest trading partner, CUSMA, away from NAFTA to CUSMA. We didn't have a representative as we navigated the uncertainty of the pandemic. We didn't have a representative as we were going through this trade uncertainty with President Trump. And now our government is finally getting on board, reversing the mistakes of the past, putting out a new trade representative into Washington, which we will have some good news to share on that soon. And the member is asking us questions around this. And I just wonder if the suggestion around the questions that we shouldn't be going down this path. I wonder if that's the line of questioning or what the member is trying to infer from his questions on this or not. And now he extends a question out to whether we will have a trade representative in China. And so I'm wondering whether the member opposite is advocating for us to have a trade representative there or not. Again, coming from the member who closed down the trade representative with our largest trading partner. And so I'm very unsure whether the member opposite is trying to suggest that we should or should not have this opposite, whether he's saying he's for or against it. We know that he closed it down in the first place. We don't know whether he wants to reopen it now. But we do hear him asking questions about whether there should be trade offices in other parts of the world, namely China. So I think that's very interesting. And then maybe the member opposite wants to take an opportunity in his next chance to clarify his position on trade offices outside of Manitoba, whether he likes them in Washington, whether he doesn't, whether he wants one in China or whether he doesn't. But I'll certainly say that we're charting the course very clearly for Manitoba's businesses. We're charting a course that is steady in the face of uncertainty, of Donald Trump's uncertainty caused by his tariff approach. We're charting a course that is going to build a sustainable and growing economy well into the future. And that economy that we're growing and that plan that we're developing is part of our economic development strategy that we are working on right now. We know that we're doing consultation on that, and we're meeting with business communities to grow our economy and develop a strategy that is reflective of that. And so Manitobans can rest assured that our government is listening, that we're working with them to build a stronger economy. Manitobans can rest assured that we have their priorities at heart, that we know we have got a great story to tell here in Manitoba, and that we want to be able to tell it, right? And we want to make, Manitobans can rest assured that we're not going to make the mistakes of the past. We're not going to make the mistakes of the former government, and that, quite frankly, we are going to be a government that grows our economy for all of us here in Manitoba. And I can point to a number of instances where our government has made significant investments throughout our entire province. From northern Manitoba, Churchill, to new gold mine in Lynn Lake in the northwest, to significant investments in Westman, and throughout the Brandon and Westman and region as well. And I was just in Steinbach 2 weeks ago, talking to business leaders. I was meeting with folks from Piney, Manitoba last week to understand their economic needs. We've been out, and Minister of Finance and other folks were just in Morden Winkler area last week. And of course, the strong work we do with manufacturers and exporters and businesses here in Winnipeg. We're growing an economy that works for all Manitobans. We're going to continue to do that in the face of Donald Trump's tariffs. So Manitobans, our business community, can know that we are a government that is working for you.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable Member for Springfield Richard.
Right.
Great point,
The
Lance, great point.
NDP Premier, the minister's boss, has indicated that the government wants to diversify away from the United States. Can the minister tell us, has he been tasked with the job of diversifying Manitoba's economy away from reliance on the U.S. trade market?
Thank you, Member. Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, and I thank the member opposite for the question. I think diversification is a smart thing to do. You know, any business leader or anyone in financial will tell you that risk management is done in part by diversification. You know, anyone with a portfolio would know you don't want to have all of your eggs in one basket, so diversification is certainly important. We know that diversification means reaching out into new markets, and so we are doing that work. But we also know that with 70+% of our exports going to the United States, they will continue and will remain as a large trading partner for Manitoba exporters. And so it's important for us to both strengthen that relationship, do the work of building good relationships with U.S. trading partners, and businesses and states, and making sure we have an advocate there, but also at the same time look an eye towards diversifying with other global markets. I was very pleased to welcome to Manitoba the ambassadors from 19 EU countries recently and have a great discussion about many things, about growing our, and working together to grow our industries. Namely, we talked very specifically about our pharmaceutical industry, which is one of the largest. In fact, we're the second largest exporter of medicines in the country. We talked a lot about our specialized manufacturing space, being a manufacturer of one of the largest EV buses in the world, right here in Winnipeg. We talked a lot about the potential of our critical mineral space and that how we develop projects in the right way. We work in combination. We work in collaboration. We work together with First Nations and Métis communities to ensure that projects, mining and mineral projects, get off the ground in the right way. Where we work to hold projects to the highest environmental standards possible. To make sure that we also know that the world knows we have clean, affordable hydroelectric grid, where your critical mineral project can get powered by hydro, and ensure that you have, that we can market critical minerals of the highest human rights and environmental standards anywhere in the world. We know that we have a significant amount of critical minerals in Manitoba. We have 30 critical minerals out of the 34 on Canada's list, 19 of which are being actively explored or produced. We have 45 out of 50 on America's, the United States of America's Geological Survey list of critical minerals. And we have 24 out of 34 on the European Union's 2023 list. This just goes to show the world is looking for what Manitoba has. And since that's the case, we ought to be doing a good job of not only looking for more diversified markets for what we have here in Manitoba, but standing up these projects in the right way. So we're certainly taking those avenues. And at the same time as doing all of that and talking about Manitoba, we're also making sure that businesses have an opportunity to find their own markets of diversification. That's why this year we were very happy to continue our export support program, a program that allows Manitoba companies, small and medium sized, to go out and participate in more trade shows, do that marketing material work, preparedness for training, market research, and all these types of initiatives that help them diversify into new global markets. This export support program directly goes to Manitoba companies to ensure that they have the resources to find new markets, grow their companies, and build good relationships with global partners. And so not only did we continue to do that this year, but in the face of Trump tariffs and tariffs from China, we actually did more this year than we've ever done before by allowing more companies to go into the export support program. And we helped to support 48 companies were approved in 2024-25 that attended 82 national and international events, trade shows, and missions. This is just part of the work we're doing to diversify our economy for Manitoba businesses.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable Member for Springfield Richard.
So the NDP Premier, the minister's boss, wants diversification. He said so. Is the minister the point minister that is his department and the minister? Are they the lead on the process of diversifying Manitoba's economy away from reliance on the U.S. economy?
Thank you, Member. Honorable Minister.
Our team is very happy to be working together, and thank you, Honorable Chair. I'm very happy to be working together. I work very closely with the Premier and happy to do so. Our team is also very happy within our business, mining, trade, and job creation to be working happy to be working collaboratively with many other departments, including the Department of Agriculture, where they certainly know very well the impacts of the Chinese tariffs on agricultural producers. Minister of Agriculture and I have been in many meetings together where not only have we been talking about how we can best navigate and support producers who are impacted by the tariffs from China, particularly on canola products, but we've also met with stakeholders, including CAP, and to hear directly from them jointly about how we can work through the challenges that they're facing. And this is collaborative work that I think is should be part of the course when it comes to government. Obviously, if the member opposite is surprised to hear that, it only goes to show the maybe isolated nature they took when they ran government in the past. Perhaps that's what he expects as the norm. But on our side, on our approach when it comes to working and running government for the people of Manitoba, we take a collaborative approach. And that goes not only with working with stakeholders in industry and Manitobans, but it also comes with working with each other across departmental lines. And so I pointed first to the Minister of Agriculture, but also point to the Minister of Finance. We work very closely together with his team, whether that be on his files on financing and that initiatives there in the budget, construction and rollout, but also with his responsibilities on hydro and intergovernmental affairs, as well as the Premier on those files as well. So we do a significant amount of work collaboratively to develop these sort of initiatives and approaches. And all of this work is to benefit Manitobans, to ensure that we have the tools we need to navigate the Donald Trump tariffs that is, impacting our economy. And tariffs, Honorable Chair, I would remind you, these same tariffs were the tariffs that member opposite, the member for Fort White, said thank you to. You know, it was the member for Fort White who, again, this isn't previous, this isn't years ago in some, you know, taken out of context quote. It was a quote that was delivered this year while we're in the face of Donald Trump's tariffs, where member opposite for Fort White went out of his way to thank Donald Trump for his tariffs. Yeah, I'll repeat that for Manitobans who might be in disbelief right now. It was the member for Fort White went out of his way while Donald Trump was talking about tariffs to thank Donald Trump for those tariffs. I think it's shocking. And I agree, members around the room who are shocked to hear that. But I will say that while that's happening, while members opposite take that approach, we are not distracted by that. We're very focused on working collaboratively with myself and various other ministers to put forward plans and support the business community, the agricultural community, to make sure that we can navigate together what we're seeing. And that includes our ability to work with other jurisdictions and provinces. And I'm happy to be taking that leadership role on many of those tables, those federal, provincial, and territorial tables, including the table on internal trade, where we are breaking down trade barriers, internal trade barriers, including the table on labor market ministers, where we work to ensure that we can have a strong labor force across the country. And these are the work that we do together to build a stronger economy across Canada, to build a stronger, united country. And it's too bad that members opposite perhaps take a different approach, but we will use this opportunity to unite ourselves as a province, unite ourselves as a country, become stronger, and become better off for it.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable Member for Springfield Richard.
So, I mean, the question was, is this minister the lead minister on the diversifying the economy file? And he's not going to answer whether that's by choice or he doesn't know. Maybe it hasn't been decided yet who the lead minister is. I mean, it would be seemingly a natural that this minister would be the lead on that file, but I guess we'll have to wait for that big announcement the minister keeps talking about. There was a meeting with the NDP premier and ambassadors. The minister mentioned 19. Were there any agreements signed at that meeting or coming out of that meeting with the 19 ambassadors representing 19 different countries? Were there any agreements signed with any of those countries, even if it was an agreement to talk further?
Thank you, Member. Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, and I thank the member opposite for the question. It's really important for us to make sure we clearly communicate the work that we're doing with Manitobans on this file, because it is very important. You know, we are growing our economy here by working collaboratively within government, but we're working together with other jurisdictions and other countries around the world. This is work that's important to help move the needle in terms of growing our economy. And building strong relationships is part of that. That's why I was so happy to ensure that we had those conversations with the EU ambassadors when they were here. Ambassador Toots from the European Union and 18 of her colleagues, were very strong. And actually, I will say to the member opposite, to most of the Manitobans, Honorable Chair, that we have already begun to have those continued conversations about growing trade relationships. And those are meetings and conversations that we have had. And that's something that we've committed to doing beyond the meeting. But I will, just for the member opposites and for Manitobans' awareness, give them an understanding of some of the conversations and countries that we are doing business in and we're working and building strong relationships with. It includes Austria, who is at the meeting with the European Union ambassadors, Belgium, Croatia, Cyprus, Estonia, Finland, Germany. And I'll continue to say these because they're important for us to understand the work that we're doing, but also to understand that we've had really strong conversations, and we're going to continue to build on those relationships. In addition to Germany, we've also met with Greece, Hungary, Lithuania, Luxembourg, Malta, the Netherlands, Portugal, Slovakia, Slovenia, Spain, and Sweden. Now, these are just the ones who attended as part of this group of ambassadors delegation. We've actually had a number of other visits and meetings and calls and work that is following up with other ambassadors as well from a variety of other countries. And that work is ongoing and continues. And so I think that there's going to be a lot of fruit to show from the labor that we're putting in. And I'm confident of that. But I'm even more confident that none of this happens if we don't work together. So I'm very glad to be taking that approach on behalf of our government to make sure that we have that putting that right foot forward and extending that warm and hearty handshake and doing the work to make sure that Manitobans know our government is working with other partners in other jurisdictions around the world. We're very happy to be doing so, happy to be playing my role as part of that great team on Team Manitoba and Team Canada. And we'll continue to do that work on behalf of Manitobans.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable Member for Springfield Richard.
Interestingly enough, the minister didn't mention France, England, or Poland. Do we not do business with any of those, and were they not invited as part of the 19?
Thank you, Member. Honorable Minister of Business, Mining, Trade, and Job Creation.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to the member opposite for the question. Yeah, I think there's a lot of great countries that we should meet with and continue to build strong business and relationships with, and we're going to continue to do that work. The list I gave before was just the EU ambassadors who attended that meeting, and that was organized by the EU, and so we're very welcome, very open to meeting with other countries and ambassadors, and we've already done some of that work. So, to the minister, to the member opposite's question, I've met with the UK ambassador this year already, and so previous had a meeting with them. Premier was in France less than a year ago, meeting with business leaders. We're very open to having more conversations, and some of that work the member is trying to point to, we've already begun doing. I think it's also important to know that we've met with other countries, maybe a member opposite might not be aware, with ambassadors and business leaders and politicians and ministers from other countries, including Czech Republic, Switzerland, Japan, Korea. I've met with folks, ministers from Australia as well. And so, we're taking a broad approach to growing our markets, not only in Canada and as we break down barriers, not only as with our largest trading partner in the United States of America, but also with European markets and Asian markets as well. So this all goes to show that our government is taking a real and serious approach about growing our economy. We're very happy to be doing it on behalf of the business community who we work with collaboratively. And we're very happy to do it in a way that it shows that we know our economy is stronger when we work together.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable Member for Springfield Richard.
No further questions.
Hearing no further questions, we would put a question on resolutions now. Resolution 10.2, resolved that there be granted to His Majesty a sum not exceeding $35,126,000 for business, mining, trade, and job creation, investment, and trade for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2026. Shall the resolution pass?
Pass.
The resolution is accordingly passed. Resolution 10.3, resolved that there be granted to His Majesty a sum not exceeding $132,541,000 for business, mining, trade, and job creation, workforce development, and training for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2026. Shall the resolution pass?
Pass.
The resolution is accordingly passed. Resolution 10.4, resolved that there be granted to His Majesty a sum not exceeding $13,570,000 for business, mining, trade, and job creation, minerals, petroleum, and geoscience for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2026. Shall the resolution pass?
Pass.
The resolution is accordingly passed. Resolution 10.5, resolved that there be granted to His Majesty a sum not exceeding $570,000 for business, mining, trade, and job creation, capital assets for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2026. Shall the resolution pass?
Pass.
The resolution is accordingly passed. Resolution 10.6, resolved that there be granted to His Majesty a sum not exceeding $60 million for business, mining, trade, and job creation, loans and guarantees program for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2026. Shall the resolution pass?
Pass.
The resolution is accordingly passed. The last item to be considered for the estimates of this department is item 10.1 bracket A, the minister's salary contained in resolution 10.1. At this point, we request that minister staff leave the table for the consideration of this last item. The floor is open for questions. Honorable Member for Springfield Richard.
Thank you. I move that line item 10.1A be amended so that the Minister of Business, Mining, Trade and Job Creation salary be reduced to $1.
It has been moved by the Honorable Member for Springfield Richard that line item 10.1 bracket A be amended so that the Minister of Business, Mining, Trade and Job Creation salary be reduced to $1. The motion is in order. Are there any questions or comments on this motion? Seeing no questions, is the committee ready for the question? Shall the motion pass? No. Yes. I hear a no. Those in favor of the motion say yay. Yay. Those in favor, in opposing the motion say nay. Nay. In my opinion, nays have it. The motion is accordingly defeated.
So if there are no further questions.
Resolution 10.1. Resolution 10.1, resolved that there be granted to His Majesty a sum not exceeding $6,009,000 for business, mining, trade and job creation, administration and finance for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2026. Shall the resolution pass?
Pass.
The resolution is accordingly passed. This completes the estimates of the Department of Business, Mining, Trade, and Job Creation. The hour being 4:53, what's the will of the committee?
Rise.
Committee rise.